Hello, everyone. In this video, I will walk you all through how to run the actor-partner interdependence model using structural equation modeling within Lavaan. And so the first thing we're going to do is set our working directory. You can see down here, I've already set it, but I will walk you through very briefly on how to do that. So I'm on a Mac, so I'll go up to the top, I'll click on session and set working directory. And then this pulls me up to where my working directory is currently set. So I'll just hit open, but you may have to go find where your data file is stored on your computer. So the next thing we are going to do is load the packages that we'll be using. And so one of the packages is Haven, and that is because my data is coming in from SPSS. And so I'm using the Haven package to bring it in. And then I am going to use Lavaan in order to run the actor-partner interdependence model. The APIM can also be run within a multi-level modeling context using any number of packages in R or other software such as SAS or M+. So next, we are going to create our data object. And so it is something very simple, very generic. If I were running more extensive in a series of analyses, I would probably be more intentional about my naming, but for my data is sufficient for these purposes. And so I will create this data object, and then I will use in this code that is that tells Haven in order to read in my .sav file. You can also do this with SAS and Stata data files as well. And so here is the name of my data file in quotes, and it is in green text. And so I will run those, and you will see down below that everything's in blue text, so everything looks good. And so now we can create our model within Lavaan. And so I'm calling this for the model just an APIM, just to be as basic and as simplistic as possible. And so you'll see it, we have a quotation mark here and a quotation mark here, and everything in between is our model. And so the actor-partner interdependence model consists primarily of 6 parameters. There's going to be 2 covariances or residual covariances. There's going to be 2 actor effects, and there's going to be 2 partner effects. So the actor-partner interdependence model is a form of dyadic data where we have a dyad or perhaps a triad or a quad even, where I predict my own outcomes. And so here we are going to look at relationship mindfulness as our dependent variable and depression as our independent variable. And so we're going to use my levels of depression to predict my levels of relationship mindfulness, how intentionally I communicate with my partner. But we're also going to use my partner's levels of depression to predict my levels of relationship mindfulness. And we're going to do that for both partners. So both people in the actor-partner interdependence model predict their own outcome as well as their partner's outcome. And so that's what you can see here. So we have relationship mindfulness, and it's comp to indicate it was a sum score. And then we have underscore M at the end to indicate that it was a male that was reporting this. And so this is a dyad level data set. So each row in my data set represents a dyad number where the first half of the data set is all male and the second half of the data set is all female. So I can give you a quick peek at what that looks like. And so you will see here, we have the CESD, which is our depression variable, and we have underscore M for male. And you can see now all of the underscore M's have disappeared. So now we're getting into the females aspect of the data, the female part of the data. And as you can see, I have 97 variables here, and we're looking at a variable 48 through 97. And if we scroll over, we will see variables 1 through 15. You'll see they will all have an M at the end to indicate that they are the male report within the dyad. And all of these Couples are heterosexual because that is my distinguishing variable. That is the rationale on how I assigned each person to be either partner one or partner two. It's based on gender, right? So these are our regressions, and then those are our four of the six parameters that we have to estimate. But we also have to estimate two covariances. So in dyadic data, we're using the actor-partner interdependence model because we believe that that partners are nested within one another. So each partner is nested within a dyad. So each partner is nested within the relationship. You also have nesting when it comes to children within classrooms, or children within families, or houses within a neighborhood. All of those are examples of nesting. And so we need to account for that in some way, shape, and form. Otherwise, our standard errors are going to be downwardly biased and our test statistics are going to be inflated. So within the actor-partner interdependence model, one way we do that is through partner effects. A second way that we do that is through covariances. And so I am going to specify on the dependent variable a residual covariance between male and female reports of relationship mindfulness. The extent to which I am mindful, intentional, thoughtful in how I communicate with my partners probably going to be correlated with how thoughtful, intentional, and mindful they are in their interactions with me. And so we need to account for that non-independence in the model through a residual covariance. And we do the exact same level, or the exact same thing with depression. All right, so these are the six parameters that we will see in the actor-partner interdependence model. And so we have created a object that captures model data fit, as well as our output. And so in Lavaan, I'm just using the SEM function. Here is that my model up here. Here I am specifying my data that is up here. And so I'm just repeating some of the syntax from above. And then I am incorporating several other aspects. So in this model, we don't really need mean structure. It just tends to be a default. I just tend to request it. On average, we're going to simply be looking at the variances and the covariances. This will be more important in other models, such as like latent growth model and things of that nature. And then we're also going to create a summary where we're going to request fit measures. Those won't be all that informative here because we are going to have a saturated model, which means that we have 0 degrees of freedom, which means essentially in this model, we have 14 parameters, mean, variances, and covariances, and we are estimating 14 different things, means, variances, and covariances. And the covariances are in the form of regression coefficients in some circumstances. And so we have 14 things that we are allowed to estimate, and we are estimating 14 things, which means we have 0 degrees of freedom, which means a saturated model, which means your RMSEA is always going to be 0, your CFI and your TLI are always going to be 1, and your chi-square is going to be 0. Right? I want to know how much explained variance my model is accounting for in both male and female reports of relationship mindfulness. And again, here, we don't need this here, so I can even comment it out, is modification indices. So when we have degrees of freedom in our, that opens up our model to becoming misspecified. And so modification indices are one way to identify potential sources of misspecification. And so we can go ahead and we can just go ahead and run this. And I will walk you all through the output. And so here, always a good sign when our model terminates normally. This is a really important feature because if your model doesn't terminate normally, there's a potential, perhaps a Hayward case or a negative variance or a model misspecification to the extent to which your model doesn't converge, or there's a coding error. So there's lots of problems if your model doesn't converge. And so estimator is maximum likelihood. And again, we are estimating 14 total parameters. Again, those are the means, variances, and covariances. I have 305 people in this data set, but I'm only using 293 because Lavaan is list-wise deleting those with any missing data. So here is our chi-square. And so here are degrees of freedom. Again, we were estimating 14 things and and we were only able to estimate 14 things. So 14 minus 14 equals 0. And so we will scroll down. CFI and TLI, again, they're going to be 1 because our model is perfectly reproducing the characteristics of the data. So we'll scroll down. Again, SRMR and RMSE are always going to be 0 as well. And so here we have our regressions. And so here's going to be our unstandardized regression coefficient. So for a 1 unit increase in the male CESD, relationship mindfulness goes down by 0.467 units. Again, in a lot of the social sciences, our scales aren't all that meaningful. Occasionally, we will have something that has a natural metric like a height or weight or perhaps body mass index. But for most of our scales, there's not going to be a metric assigned. So this value doesn't hold a whole lot of meaning. And so we can look at the standardized all, which standardizes both our X and Y. And now this interpretation is in standard deviation units. So a 1 standard deviation increase in men's depression leads to a 0.399 standard deviation decrease in male relationship mindfulness, which is our actor effect. Looking at our partner effect, it does not appear, or we do not have enough evidence to confidently say that women's depression impacts male relationship mindfulness. So this is going to be our partner effect. So for a 1 unit increase in level of the female partner's depression, male relationship mindfulness goes down by only 0.047 standard deviations. So not a very strong effect. And likewise, here we actually have a very interesting finding. We actually found a partner effect here. So as male depression increases, so 1 unit increase in male depression, female relationship mindfulness, that female partner's level of relationship mindfulness goes down by 0.286 units. All right, so again, I would say a somewhat unexpected finding. And what we find here is that the female reports of depressive symptoms does not predict their levels of relationship mindfulness. All right. So in dyadic research, even though we're not going to formally test the patterns here, there's what's called dyadic patterns. And there are generally 5 different dyadic patterns, 4 that were originally created, and a new pattern called the domination pattern that is more recently developed. And so dyadic patterns, they characterize or describe at a very kind of general level the nature or the ratios of actor to partner effects. And so if you can have an actor only, which is where only the actor effects are significant, you can have partner only, you can have the partner effects are significant. You can have a couple oriented pattern, which is both actor and partner effects are significant. And you can also have a contrast pattern, which is where the actor effects and the partner effects are both significant, but they have opposite signs. And so the total effect is actually 0. So your K parameter, which is what we use to test dyadic effect, is 0. And then we also have what's called, again, the domination pattern, which is the newer pattern, which is what we see here, which is where one person, in our example, we have the male, they exert an actor and a partner effect. And the other dyad member, the female in our example, doesn't exert either an actor or a partner effect. right? So that's what's called a domination pattern, and you will not see many of those types of patterns identified within the research, but that is indeed what we have here. All right, so we'll take a brief glance at the covariances. And so indeed, male and female reports of relationship mindfulness were correlated at 0.47, and male and female depression, interestingly enough, was correlated even higher at 0.610. So here are the intercepts, and here are the variances of our variables, and here is our R squared. And so we have males variation in relationship mindfulness being accounted for around just over 18%. So 18.4% of all the variation in male relationship mindfulness is accounted for by our model. And only 10.5% of the variance in the female relationship mindfulness was accounted for by our model. And so essentially that is the actor-partner interdependence model with a couple of more advanced ideas such as dyadic patterns. And hopefully this was helpful in learning how to estimate the actor-partner interdependence model within a Lavaan and structural equation modeling framework.